When my dad first showed me Ghostbusters as a kid, I was instantly hooked. I was captivated by the charm and the comedy of the Ghostbusters crew, the spectacle of each ghost capture, and the increasing odds the team was faced with. Now, as a kid growing up in the 2000s, there were only 2 movies in the series at the time. It wouldn't be until years later when a failed reboot hit theaters, followed by 2 more entries that are canon to the franchise. I loved the first movie as a kid. I still do. And while the sequel isn't as good, I still enjoy it. While I really wanted a 3rd movie to release when I was younger, I ended up discovering the next best thing. The video game. No, not the one for the SNES, the good one. I looked at videos of the gameplay and reviews, and I was really looking forward to playing it. The only thing though is that there are 3 different versions of the game. There's a version for the Wii, a version for the DS, and a version that was released on the PS3 and Xbox 360. Unfortunately, I didn't know this, and since I only had a Wii as a kid, the Wii version was the one I played. I honestly don't think I ever beat that version of the game. Same with the DS version, because yes, I did eventually get that one as well. It wasn't until years later that I tried the best version of the game, and I was blown away by how good it was. It's so good that I would venture to say this game is Ghostbusters 3. So let's start with the gameplay, because what's the point in capturing ghosts if it's not going to feel good? The proton pack controls really well. You can feel the impact of each of its weapons as you fire them at ghosts, gods, and everything in between to either capture them in the ghost trap or outright destroy them. Now, the primary way to capture them is to just blast them with the blast stream. This whittles down the ghost's health until they're low enough to lasso them with the capture stream, which is what you'll use to defeat the enemies you encounter throughout the game. Most of them, anyway. The proton pack has 3 other weapons: the shock blast, which is basically an anti-ghost shotgun, the slime blower, which is used to deal with environmental hazards throughout the game, and the meson collider, which is 1 part tracking device and 1 part smart pistol from Titanfall 2. Wait a minute, that last one had 2 firing modes, didn't it? Well, that would be because all 4 weapons have 2 different firing modes. The blast stream comes with the boson dart, which is effectively a missile. The coolest part is that if you fire off a boson dart while firing the blast stream, the dart will stay attached to the stream until it hits something, giving you a couple of seconds to both fire it and aim it at something. Now let's say you need to slow things down a bit to hit them with your boson darts. That's what the alternate fire mode for the shock blast is for, the stasis stream. Keeping the stream trained on an enemy will cause it to slow down, even freezing them in place for you to deal big damage. Now, if you want a stylish way to capture the ghost you've come across, you'll want to go with a slime tether, which is the alternate fire mode for the slime blower. More often than not, the average player will just stick to using the tether for environmental puzzles, but it can also be used for capturing weakened ghosts by tethering them to a trap or destroying construct enemies, like the Stone Angels in the Central Park level. All 8 of these ghost hunting tools will help you defeat any enemy the game throws at you, not to mention net you a lot of money for defeating said enemies. And the money's great and all, but where do you spend it?
Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it!
maybe later, but for now, it's important to get upgrades for your weapons, traps, and the PKE meter. Money can be earned in 4 different ways: capturing or defeating ghosts, scanning enemies, scanning cursed artifacts, and completing levels. If you want to get all the upgrades and net yourself a nice achievement, you'll definitely want to be scanning everything you can. Not only that, but some of the upgrades are really useful. A lot of them can increase the damage or overall effectiveness of your weapons, but the more important upgrades in my opinion are the heat reduction ones. See, the proton pack can only take so much heat from the weapons you fire before it stalls, forcing you to wait a few seconds before it can be used again. In order to prevent that, you have to vent the pack whenever it gets too heated up, which basically acts as this game's version of a reload mechanic. Getting the heat reduction upgrades will help with that, since they cut down how often you'll need to vent the pack, giving you a lot more time to fire at enemies before venting. Now, since you are dealing with ghosts, they'll naturally prefer to hide sometimes, and if they hide, well, you can't exactly capture them with your cool tools, which means you can't get money to upgrade those cool tools. Well, what do you do then? You pull out the PKE meter, that's what. This little thing scans for any and all paranormal activity you aim it at, including ghosts, paranormal residue, and cursed artifacts. For all of these things, it essentially acts like the radar from Alien Isolation in terms of letting you know how close you are to whatever it is you're looking for. Though I guess in Alien Isolation it helps you know where to stay away from, but you get my point. The PKE meter gives off 3 signs when you're in close proximity to something that can be scanned. The lines on the screen spike up, the noise it makes becomes louder, and the arms extend higher. Using these 3 signs will help you find whatever it is you're searching for with ease. So why exactly do you need to know all of this? Well, that's because in this game, you play as the recruit, the new addition to the team. And no, the recruit is never actually given a name because according to Peter, the team shouldn't get too attached. The game starts on your first night on the job, but before you can officially get to work, you need to learn the ropes first. Right on cue, a pulse wave of paranormal energy rocks the foundation of the Ghostbusters station, allowing Slimer and one other ghost to escape. Seeing as you're already strapped to a proton pack, you may as well start your training. Slimer was, unfortunately, able to escape, but the other ghost can still be captured. All you need to do is deplete its health, slam it a few times, and it's ready for the trap.
When a trappable ghost moves it, fight it, cadet! The trap drone's working it down!
Perfect. Your ghost busting career has officially started, and for your first shift, you need to find Slimer. Of course he would come back here. First level in the game is the Sedgwick Hotel, the iconic location from the first movie where the team first captured Slimer. That's the same objective in the game too, as well as spiking the owner's cortisone. Once you've captured Slimer, and a few bellhop ghosts that never got a big enough tip, there is one more ghost you need to capture, Papa Sargassi, aka the Fisherman. See, every level in the game culminates in a boss fight, and as you'll see later on, some of them are truly a spectacle to behold. Anyway, I can't think of a good transition, so...
Hello. May I share with you the lore of this land?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I know it's hard to believe, but we're actually standing at a long...
You know how I mentioned scanning with the PKE meter earlier? Well, every time you scan either an enemy, a boss, or a cursed object, you can pull up their full description on the meter itself. Whenever you scan a new enemy, and you go right to the meter, it will give you the category and type of enemy you scanned, followed by their combat statistics, and finally, a bit of background. With the cursed objects, on the other hand, it will simply give you a bit of lore behind the item, as well as the area you found it in. The lore of the bosses in particular is quite interesting, and I'll start by telling you the tale of Pappy Sargassi. Descending from a long, proud line of seafarers and fishermen, Pappy Sargassi attempted to avoid the notoriously unlucky early deaths on the water that plagued his family by pursuing a more landlocked career. In 1950, he opened a restaurant, Sargassi's, and attempted to turn his back on the sea. In later years, he overcame his fear of the water and took up fishing. His family's first caught up with him, or he was the unluckiest fisherman who ever lived, and he died, choking on a fish stick while being eaten by a great white shark. Quite the unfortunate turn for the fisherman, I would say. I can understand why he's still angry all these years later. I'd be pretty mad too if my death ended up being a parody of Quint's death from Jaws. Spoilers for a 50-year-old movie, but a job's a job. Plus, he terraformed an entire floor and flooded 3 others, so the dude's gotta go.
I thought I didn't like knives and forks flying at me, but when knives and forks become a big angry giant, that's really me not liking it. A lot.
Happens every day, right?
One level down, several more to go. I think the best thing to do now is to lock Pappy up in the containment unit and get some sleep. Well, that's gonna put a damper on things. Yeah, so Stay Puft is back, and he's kinda pissed off about what happened last time he was in Times Square, so he brought backup. Lots of backup. So what was initially a routine job just turned into riot control for an average night in Manhattan after the Knicks win a game. First on the chopping block are Stay Puft's very own marshmallow minis. These little flaming blobs of sugar will either charge at you with full force or launch flaming marshmallows at you from afar. When you get to this point in the game, you'll have unlocked the boson darts, so if you have any money saved up, it'd be best to get the heat reduction upgrade for those. That way, you can blow up the minis with no problem. After taking the term keto diet to the next level, it's time for the first Super Slammer section. The Super Slammer? That sounds pretty cool. What is it? Basically, it's a big-ass trap, and it's pretty fun to use. And with it, you can put away the hobo ghosts that arrive to attack you and the rest of the Ghostbusters. With them out of the way, you can continue on towards Stay Puft. Or so you thought. Because now, you have to deal with flaming stone gargoyles that seem to be angry with you for some reason. And I don't know if you noticed by now, but everything in this game, and I mean everything, that isn't a teammate just straight up despises you. These gargoyles quite literally just woke up and chose violence, and that's a pretty common theme with the game's enemies, as well as the game's combat in general. See, when you take into account the fact that you and your team are the sole reason why the ghosts are stopped from freely roaming the world, you might be able to understand why they'd want to get rid of you as soon as possible. So there isn't exactly room for any type of defense in this game. You can run, dodge, and revive teammates to act as meat shields, but ultimately, you just gotta go on the offense as soon as they pop up. If you even think about something other than that in the later levels, you're gonna have a bad time. Now that the gargoyles are taken care of and a conveniently placed tanker has exploded, you and the team can now make your way to the next section of the level, the opera. Here, you're introduced to a new ghost type, as well as a new mechanic, black slime. The black slime is dangerous to touch, and it will steadily deplete your health the longer you touch it. Not only that, but if there's a heavy concentration of it in one area, it can and will create a portal. In later levels, these portals will spawn enemies while they stay active, but for now, it allows the Opera Stinger Ghost to teleport through them. After using the Super Slimer more, a cutscene plays, and Ray notes that Stay Puft seems to be looking for someone, and he finally decides it's time to hop out of the Ecto-1 to get in on the action. Unfortunately for us, the 100-foot-tall mass of sugar and anger seems to think that Ray has a very punchable face, and starts targeting the Ghostbusters as a result. And the only thing you can do until he accidentally clears your path by chucking a car in your direction is to run away and defeat the marshmallow minis he sends at you. Once you're at the building he was searching at, you and Ray go to a higher floor. After defeating dozens of enemies, you and Ray find the woman he was looking for, and along with Peter, who just kind of teleported here I guess, climb the stairs to the roof of the building to try and escape him. Some construction worker ghosts make a vain attempt to stop you, as does Stay Puft, but after capturing the ghost and knocking off the big guy, the coast is clear.
Here he comes! A Big Daddy manifestation himself! A raging blob of densely packed marshmallow!
Yeah, it was never going to be that easy, was it? Well, first night on the job, and you're going toe-to-toe with the destructor form of the ghost god Gozer. By yourself. Surprisingly enough, Stay Puft is pretty agile despite not having any bones, and is able to scale the building pretty quickly. This fight, though, is actually rather simple. All you really have to do is just fire the blast stream at the big guy, as well as the minions he sends your way, and shoot a boson dart at him when he looks all worn out. Repeat the process a few times, and you've successfully painted a huge section of the city with marshmallow.
Got him on the ropes, Lobster! Land the last one so we can go home!
You've killed my dessert!
Scoreboard reads Ghostbusters 2, Gozer the Gozerian 0, looking like a real big leaguer out there, champ.
Sheesh, talk about a crazy first shift. But now that the streets of New York City are ghost-free, the Ghostbusters can spend some time doing some research as to why on earth Stay Puft returned. First and foremost, the woman they rescued, Alyssa Selwyn. For whatever reason, Gozer was rather hellbent on capturing Alyssa, and she isn't sure as to why. Winston notes that she knows an awful lot about Gozer, in which she explains that she's a specialist in Gozerian culture and architecture, and just so happens to be the curator for the new Gozerian exhibit at the museum tomorrow night.
Coincidence? I think not!
And, for reasons unknown, the Ghostbusters never received an invite for the event, thanks to Peck. You would think that, after the world was saved by them 2 times in the span of 5 years, the man would simply let go of his hatred and grudge for them. But nope. Instead, you know what he does? He forms an entirely new commission. Peacock, the Paranormal Contracts Oversight Commission. Could you imagine having such Lex Luthor levels of hatred for someone that you create an entirely new government agency just to screw with them? Well, regardless, the team is not allowed in the museum under any circumstances. But since when did they care about the law? So everyone heads that way except Peter, who stays behind to quote-unquote protect Alyssa. On the way to the museum, though, they hear news of something big going down at the library. And if you've seen the first movie, you know what that means. The Grey Lady. And since both Egon and Ray are in the car, plans are changing. It's time to head to the library and capture the Grey Lady once and for all. As soon as you make your way inside the library, you're greeted by 2 Class 5 animator ghosts, and all that really means is that they can create new enemies using inanimate objects. Upon seeing you, they immediately run away to hide further in the library. And they're also quite fast, which is precisely why Ray and Egon introduce you to the Stasis Stream and Shock Blast. The Stasis Stream will be quite useful for capturing the animators themselves, but the Shock Blast is really meant for the enemies that they will create to try and stop you from getting to the Grey Lady. Egon and Ray scout ahead to try and catch up to one of them, while Winston goes to scope out another room to see if they have any friends. After trying to track down one of the ghosts, it leads you to the main area of the library, a large room filled with books, bookshelves, tables, and chairs. And it led you here for a reason.
Here comes something big.
Now that is a prime example of a level 6 bidimensional attractor.
This is a golem enemy, one of many variations the game throws at you. The book golem in particular conveniently happens to be weak to shock blast, so you can pelt it with anti-ghost shotgun shells while Ray and Egon occasionally blast it with boson darts. Now, with some constructed enemies in the game, it isn't enough to simply deplete their health. Once all their health is gone, you need to toss a capture stream on the weak point of their body, which in this case is the lamp acting as its head. Ripping it off forces it to mimic that one scene from Monster House, allowing you to continue on to the next part of the library. Upon entering the next room, the Grey Lady politely tells you to shut up before disappearing deeper into the library, and after chasing her for a bit, she forcefully splits up the 3 people following her using bookshelves to create a sort of labyrinth. While you try to catch up to her, Winston does some research into the ghost herself, learning about what happened to her before she died.
Guys, I'm in the periodical archives looking at a stack of old newspaper clippings all about some nut named Edmund Hoover, a.k.a. the Collector. Go on, this dude has a history you should know. He was a rare book collector who seduced Eleanor Twitty, the head librarian of this place.
The Gray Lady?
That would be my guess.
After discovering and obliterating a new construct enemy made from paper, you make your way to what seems to be some sort of mail sorting room. Ray pops out of one of the chutes, and the two of you have to fight a bunch of flying paper cuts, followed by the first of the animator ghosts you saw at the beginning of the level. He tries to copy the silver boss fight from Sonic 06, but since this game is actually functional, he fails miserably and gets trapped. You and Ray fight through droves of more enemies before Winston gets back on the radio and shares his new discoveries about the library.
Says here that this collector used the Gray Lady to get to the rare books in her care, specifically a book called, get this, the Gozerian Codex.
Great.
Yeah, and when she found out what he was up to, she dumped him.
Smart lady.
Not really. Evidently, he murdered her for it.
Uh-oh.
The Gray Lady was his first victim, but he killed a bunch more.
And let me guess, he collected their bodies just like he collected books?
Bingo! Ray, you get to buy me dinner. And here's the last on the collector. Seconds before he was hanged, he said he would return as Azat-Lor, some sort of god, to keep watch over the library and every rare book in its collection.
Sounds like quite the bookworm.
Then you head to the children's room of the library. In this section in particular, it really caught me off guard. The entire game up to this point had been consistent with 3 things: humor, spectacle, and gameplay. Thematically, the game hadn't exactly taken itself seriously either, and it was extremely similar to the first 2 movies. It certainly helps that the original writers, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, wrote this game as well. But when someone thinks of a story about ghosts, generally it tends to be something scary, like The Conjuring or Poltergeist. With Ghostbusters, though, it's never been inherently dark or disturbing like those movies. Once you enter the children's reading room, though, you start to hear ghostly voices. More specifically, the voices of dead children. Some of them laughing, some of them crying, some of them even calling out for their moms. It honestly knocked the wind out of me, because the whole time I was playing this game, my encounters were exclusively with ghosts that were violent and antagonistic in nature. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too far into this, but hearing the voices of dead children had some really dark implications in my mind, especially with the knowledge I had about the Collector and his involvement with the Gozerian cult in New York City. The tonal whiplash was enough to make me want to get back to what I've come to expect of Ghostbusters, so I left and made my way to Special Collections, which is where Egon was waiting for us. The Grey Lady shushed the 3 of us once more before taking off, leaving some gladiator enemies for us to deal with. She seemed to have left us at a dead end at first, but thanks to the PKE meter, we were able to locate a secret entrance that leads further down the library. Down here, a very suspicious looking tome is discovered by the team. Egon doesn't seem to think it's a wise idea to touch the book, and Ray's touching it. He's touching the book.
Of action.
Hey, I'll bet this is a trap.
Welcome back, Ray.
Well, now you gotta deal with a horde of enemies, culminating in finally locating the second animator ghost from the start of the level. After trapping it, and causing some property damage for good measure, you make your way down to a flooded room in the library, where a switch needs to be flipped in order for the lights to turn on and the door to the next room to swing open. I ended up taking a page out of Ray's book and flipped the switch before thinking about the potential consequences of my actions, which I probably shouldn't have done, since it caused the book golem to come to life. Thankfully though, I wasn't its sole target this time, so I was able to spend more time blasting and less time running. The same can't be said about the next room though, because instead of one golem, there are two. And instead of being made with books, they're made of scorching hot coals. Fortunately, the phrase fight fire with fire actually works here, and the proton pack is more than enough to deal with these enemies. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough to deal with the black slime blocking the way to the next area of the library, if you can even consider this the library anymore.
Plasm banks are now integrated into the proton pack. It uses a base culture of ectoplasm that can impair entities, cause caustic black slime to go inert, and reveal otherwise invisible ethereal structures that reside on this plane.
Well, that's convenient timing. Now that the way is cleared, you can make your way to the bottommost level of the library and finally come face to face with the Grey Lady.
Eerie place. I wonder if this is where the collector killed the librarian.
I think that would be a safe assumption. That book she's reading is emitting massive energy.
That's your cue, killer. Go get him.
Naturally, picking up the book that just attacked her seems like a good idea. Once you pick up the book, the Grey Lady disappears, and Ray theorizes that we helped her cross over into the afterlife. Yeah, couldn't be further from the truth, because she's actually pretty pissed off at you for taking the Gozerian Codex she was reading. Now that she's fully transitioned into a scary boss ghost, I feel that now would be an appropriate time to mention that this exact point in the game is where I noticed it was getting a little difficult. If you decide to play this, and think that you can handle a bit of a challenge, I'd recommend playing on experienced difficulty. But if not, you'll still have a lot of fun on casual difficulty. If you value your sanity, don't play on professional difficulty. Anyway, once you captured the Grey Lady and finally settled Egon and Ray's years-long grudge against her, a small sphere appears in the middle of the room. Ray instantly recognizes it as a cross-dimensional portal connecting our dimension to another. In this case, it's connected to the home world of every enemy you fight in the game, Ghost World. Since there isn't another way out of the room you're in, you only have one option. Cross through the portal into enemy territory.
Look out!
So this is what the public library looks like on the far side of a cross-dimensional portal.
It's one of infinite potential configurations. You know, theoretically.
Ghost World is probably my favorite setting in the game. The colors, the architecture, and the overall eerie nature of the place are things that make me just want to sit and appreciate it for a while. Maybe some other time, since the residents of Ghost World react to you the same way a gated community member reacts to a liberal arts student. Beating the book golem prompts a portal to appear behind you that Ray comes falling out of. He seems fine though, and teaches you how to use a slime tether so you can cross a bridge and get to the next part of the level. The tether gets some more usage to move around a room so you can go into a portal. Egon then notices and states to you and Ray that every single event in the game seems to be interconnected. The Sedgwick Hotel, the return of Stay Puft, the huge energy pulse, they all stem from one thing, or rather, one person, Alyssa. Now that the possible reason for all this has been deduced, you need to find your way out of Ghost World so you can stop any more potentially world-ending events from happening. Just need to climb some stairs and do a little platforming puzzle with the slime tether, and you'll be one step closer to being out of Ghost World. Normally, you would be back in the library by this point, but
Someone's holding us here. The collector.
Yes, Azetlor wants to add to his collection, and he's probably not too happy about us taking the Gozerian Codex with us.
Oh yeah? What can a twisted little bookworm do to scare us?
well, only one thing left to do now. Defeat your second ghost god of the game. This boss fight can be a bit hard, but that's mostly due to how gigantic Azetlor is. Once you rip off his mask, he'll get really angry and start charging at literally anything that moves. Thankfully though, because of his size, he can't fit through the portals scattered throughout the arena, so you can make use of them when he closes in on you to get away and catch your breath for a couple of seconds. Once he's defeated, a portal in front of the arena opens up, allowing you to finally get back to the real world.
What the hell were you guys?
I've been running all over this library, calling you, looking for you, nothing.
We passed through a cross-dimensional portal into an alternate version of the New York Public Library and fought a 40-foot monster made out of priceless antiques to steal an ancient magical book.
Oh, well, that would explain it then.
Did I mention that this is only the recruit's second day on the job? Anyway, now that you, Ray, and Egon are back in the real world with the Gozerian Codex and reunited with Winston, Egon notices something on the wall. Whatever it is, it seems like defeating Azet lore shut down part of it. With the situation in the library taken care of, Winston orders some pizza for delivery, and the crew heads back to the Ghostbusters station. Back at the station, Ray reads through the Codex, trying to find information on what they saw in the library. Thankfully though, Alyssa is still at the station, and being a specialist in Gozerian culture, she recognizes it as a symbol used in Sumerian ritual magic. More specifically, it signifies what she describes as a path to great power. Ray mentions that in the Codex, it states that some type of feeder system is required to create the amount of energy needed for a destructor form, like Stay Puft. It just so happens that a statue with this same exact symbol on it is being showcased at the new Gozerian exhibit at the museum, and who is it being loaned from? Ivo Shandor. More specifically, his estate. Now, in case you haven't seen the first movie, or if you just don't remember, his name was mentioned in passing towards the end of the movie, and it's explained that not only was he a Gozer fanatic, but he also designed the apartment building that Dana Barrett was at so that it would one day be used to summon Gozer to the real world. On top of that, he did renovations on several other buildings in New York City, including the library and the museum. Suddenly, all the pieces are starting to fit together, and everything is tying back to Ivo Shandor, the architect. Armed with their new knowledge of Shandor, the Ghostbusters head to the museum. Oh, but wait a second, they didn't get an official invite because of Peck, so they can't go to the opening of the Gozerian exhibit.
Yes, we just arrived at the loading dock.
It's a good thing they don't exactly care about breaking the rules. Besides, stopping New York from getting taken over by ghosts is way more important than worrying about a broken law. Or 3. Speaking of ghosts, a new type of ghost is introduced here, the Possessor Ghost. She's far too fast for you to catch up to her, but at least she's gone now, so you can free the assistant curator of the museum. Alyssa sent him to meet you when you got to the museum, but somehow got trapped in a big wooden box. But now that he's out, you can head to the main area of the museum.
Don't let it get me.
Don't you worry. She'll have to go through me first.
You know, I like Ray, but sometimes I wonder if he puts himself into obviously dangerous situations on purpose. But hey, at least it teaches you that there are ghosts in this level that can possess humans to attack you, including your fellow Ghostbusters. Thankfully, the solution is pretty simple. Just hose down the possessed human with the slime blower and the Possessor Ghost will pop out for you to capture, and the victim only receives minor brain damage.
How you doing, Ray?
How's it buzzing? Buzzer?
Oh, he'll be fine in a second.
Now that you've taken the elevator up to the main floor and met up with Peter, you can make your way to the new exhibit, hopefully before anything bad happens.
What in the hell is going on here?
They got Peck!
I never got him.
You know, I just want to take a second here to appreciate how overjoyed Peter looks now that he has an excuse to completely blast Peck with slime. This is literally the happiest I think I have ever seen him look, and that includes his actor, Bill Murray. Now that the exhibit opening party is over and ghosts have successfully taken over the museum, it's time to set things straight. The recruit, Peter, and Winston chase after the ghost that kidnapped Alyssa, while Ray heads to the security room with the assistant curator to operate the cameras and guide the rest of the team to wherever she's being taken. Almost as soon as you get on the trail of the ghost, you're greeted with hostile mannequins of Sumerians, all of which want to obliterate you just for existing. Fortunately, the proton pack comes equipped with an anti-paranormal shotgun, so you can get rid of them pretty easily, just as long as you maintain a somewhat safe distance. After blasting your way through the exhibit of the world's earliest civilizations, you can make your way to the next exhibit, the Civil War Room. Seems like a bit of a leap in time if you ask me, but hey, I didn't build a museum. It's cool though, to see warriors in different times. The biggest difference? Those guys had spears. These guys have guns. As you would expect from a war exhibit, this section is complete and utter chaos. Ghosts fighting you, ghosts fighting each other, cannons and guns going off all around you. It's just sheer pandemonium. Fortunately for us, our firepower beats theirs tenfold. Now that the fighting for this section is finished, it's time to move on to the next and get a little history lesson from Ray about the ghost that kidnapped Alyssa.
In the early 1900s, the museum was run by a board of trustees. Powerful guys, tycoons, captains of industry. The chairman of the board was Cornelius Wellesley of International Steel. The board used the museum as a respectable front for all kinds of dubious activities. Mainly, though, they were part of a club run by our favorite evil architect. They hired women from the St. Nicholas Rehabilitation Mission for Wayward Angels. Rumor has it the board conducted all kinds of nasty rituals using these women.
Well, that's, not good. Especially since the chairman himself has Alyssa for whatever evil intentions he has. Staying hot on his trail, you make your way to the Egyptian exhibit. The mannequin enemies here are pretty similar to the Sumerian ones, only this time, they have shields. Not a problem though, because once you wrangle their shields with the capture stream, you can get rid of them no problem with the help of the shock blast. Hordes more of them later, and you circled back to the Ghostarian exhibit. For some reason, the chairman just kinda drops her off here. I'm not sure what the plan was there, but either way, Alyssa is safe and unpossessed. That's the good news. The bad news is that Egon found out something about this whole situation, that being the fact that Ghost World is beginning to push itself into the real world via more cross-dimensional portals. The chairman does try to kidnap Alyssa again, but it still doesn't work, and he drops her after being doused with more slime.
Winston, get the lady out of here before he hits on her again.
Aim for the big yellow eye.
The mayor arrives back at the exhibit and is pretty pissed off about the whole situation. He does ask if he can do anything to help, and Ray tells him to prepare the city for the worst, to which he responds with the prompt, "Screw that, take care of this." Really great leadership, Mr. Mayor. But this whole situation does need to be taken care of since capturing ghosts is what pays the bills. And, saving the world, blah blah blah, whatever. That's not what's important right now. What is important is finding the staircase that leads underneath the museum, and now that a secret tunnel system has been discovered, it's time to explore. Egon notes that the tunnels have a very consistent and accelerated stream of psychokinetic energy flowing through them, and calls the tunnel some sort of conduit. What's the conduit for? Well, I'll explain in a few minutes. Until then, the Ghostbusters have to fight another ghost god. Fortunately, Egon gives everyone the final weapon of the game, the Meson Collider, and this is by far the easiest weapon to use. All you have to do is fire once at an enemy to shoot a tracker, then you can use the alternate fire of the weapon to blast the enemy you shot the tracker at to rapidly deplete its health. It's incredibly useful for quite literally any type of enemy, but especially the chairman since he has a glowing yellow eye on his chest, basically broadcasting his weak spot. The rest of the fight is pretty simple. When he pops up, just blast him and avoid his attacks. When he goes to hide underneath the platform you're on, he'll summon black slime portals that will be constantly spewing out enemies until you douse them with regular slime. Another boss down, another node on the symbol turned off. Back on the surface, Peck is furious. As per usual, he calls the Ghostbusters a bunch of fraudulent gangsters and vows to shut down the containment grid. You know, the machine containing every single ghost captured in the game, and then some. Remember what happened last time you did that? Rightfully suspicious, Egon scans him, noticing that scanning him is yielding results on the PKE meter. He's clearly got a stick up his ass, bigger than usual, and the crew now only has the weekend to determine the cause of this whole mess before he pulls their license and puts them out of a job. Thankfully, Winston is ahead of the curve, giving everyone a lead on where to go next.
Guys. Perfect fit.
It's not a constellation. It's a mandala.
I can't believe I never saw it before.
Okay, for 1 minute, pretend someone here doesn't know what a mandala is.
A mandala is like a spiritual labyrinth.
And this one looks like a spiraling system that feeds into each successive node along the line until it reaches a culmination point. Before he died, Shandor must have set some mechanism in place similar to the antenna in Dana's building.
You know, I think you helped to make that clearer. So this was the gizmo that's supposed to feed energy to the destructor form?
That's right, Peter!
Well, Dr. Venkman.
Well, I had to get one right eventually, didn't I? I mean, just math.
All right, I'm just speculating, but it's possible that ghosts are trapped in the system, funneled from node to node, and they get stronger and stronger until they reach the end, and then they...
Look, the first portal.
the library. The second, the museum. And the third, the Sedgwick.
And that means the fourth portal must be right here.
Well, time to return to the Sedgwick and see what we can find. Ever since that night at the hotel where the fisherman ghost practically destroyed 4 entire floors, the whole place has been shut down for repairs, making it pretty easy for you to get in, find the mandala node, shut it down, and get out. With no people to get in the way, you can make your way to the main lobby where you encounter the only friendly ghost in the game. And they're hardly even ghosts, just ghostly echoes from people who haven't fully entered the real world. Not every ghost in the building is friendly though, made apparent by the screech of what Ray identifies as a level 5 anchored ambusher, whatever that means. I don't think I'll ever learn what a level 5 anchored ambusher is though, since the scream came from the manager of the hotel, who was in the building to get some payroll records and has been trapped in the hotel ever since. As the team escorts the manager to the entrance, he spots the ghost of a woman known as the Spider Witch. He doesn't know her personally, but he knows the stories and rumors surrounding her. See, back in the 1920s, there was a woman named Evelyn Lewis who used room 1221 of the Sedgwick Hotel to kill the men she seduced for purposes known only to her and her master, which happens to be Ivo Shandor. When the bodies were discovered, they were all hanging upside down from the ceiling, drained entirely of their blood. It remains unknown to this day whether she killed them before draining their blood, or killed them by draining their blood. Regardless of how they were killed, Evelyn was rewarded for her work after her death when Shandor used his powers to transform her into a powerful ghost, one with the appearance you'll later see is fitting of the moniker Spider Witch. Small lore dump aside, Winston comes to the realization that they are all trapped in the hotel now with the manager. The good thing though is that they are at the site of another mandala node, so all they have to do is find it, shut it off, and leave. The only issue is that the node is presumably on the 12th floor, and there's no way to get up there since the stairs are too dangerous and there's no power for the elevators. There is a backup generator in the utility room through the kitchen, but first, you'll have to deal with an ambush from a bunch of sentient spiderwebs. The manager does what most sane people would do in this situation, and runs away before passing out from fear. The Ghostbusters just kinda leave him there, seeing as there isn't any threat to his safety at the moment, and go to find the generator instead, which just so happens to be in a room partially flooded with water. Water that becomes deadly after turning the power back on. Well, nothing a quick slime tether can't fix. With the power back on, only a few ghosts stand in the way of getting back to the elevators. They aren't that much of a threat, so long as you act fast and close the black slime portals that keep creating more ghosts. Back at the main lobby, Egon deduces that most of the psychokinetic energy is coming from the 13th floor of the building. The manager, now awake, explains that the building has no 13th floor. No other option then, so it looks like the team will have to split up. Ray and Winston will take the 14th floor, while Egon and the recruit take the 12th. Now that we're over halfway into the game, Egon explains what exactly the mandala is.
Think of the mandala as a city bus line. At the bus station, ghosts or waiting passengers are drawn into the system here and trapped. This concentrates their PK energy, which is then eventually forced through to the next node or station, and so on until it all ends at a final terminus. At each successive bus station, the station manager absorbs some of the energy. This makes the station manager, or node guardian, stronger so that it can keep the ghosts in line and destroy anyone who comes to the station to interfere with the flow. These nodes, or bus stations, gather the power used to feed a central point, thus creating a much bigger threat to our world. Does that make more sense now?
TTTC, Totally Trapped Transit Company.
Got that? I hope so, because we're moving on to the next part of the level, courtesy of the Spider Witch. Following a close encounter with her, the 12th floor is open for exploration. I'm going to pause here for a second. Before I continue, as you might have expected, this part of the game will heavily feature spiders, so if you have arachnophobia, I would highly recommend either going to audio only until the end of this level, or skipping to the timestamp on screen. Now that the Spider Witch knows that we're after her, she'll be sending a lot of minions our way, primarily overgrown spiders. And as it turns out, both the new enemies and the transformation of the 12th floor are pretty big indicators to Egon that the Ghost World is beginning to fully cross over, and it's happening a lot sooner than expected. With Ray and Winston unable to be reached, it's up to only 2 Ghostbusters to shut down the node. After defeating some more spider minions, you've officially entered the lair of the Spider Witch. Upon entering her lair, you can spot a bit of environmental storytelling via all the skeletal corpses littered along the ground. I haven't counted how many, but I'm willing to bet there are more skeletons in this lair than most of the kill counts on the Dead Meat channel. The Spider Witch is looking to add a couple more to her kill count, but it won't be easy with 2 people trained in the ways of science-based exorcism. It was pretty easy for the Exorcist though, since all she really does in the fight is charge at you and disappear as soon as she takes damage. With her defeat, there is only one node to go before the whole mandala is sealed and Shandor's plans are foiled. There's just one issue though. According to the map, the last node is in the middle of the Hudson River. There aren't any buildings in the river though, so where could it be?
Sorry to break this to you, Egon, but I just don't see a Mandela.
You were saying?
Shandor Island. It's here.
Ah, well, I stand corrected. Fitting, though, that the final node would be at a place called Shandor Island. Turns out that on the night the last of the Shandor bloodline died, the entire island sank to the bottom of the river due to a giant tidal surge. Evo Shandor had already given ownership of the whole island to Gozer, so when the island sank, Ghost World reclaimed it to be used later. Now that later has arrived, the island has resurfaced to be used as the location of the final Mandala node. As you might expect, an island that's about a century and a half old that's been stuck underwater for several decades isn't exactly in the best condition. Since there's debris falling everywhere and Ray is driving the Ghostbusters ship, called the Ecto-8, he gets out from the cave to wait on standby while the rest of the team shuts down the node. Well, wait a second, what happened to Ecto 2 through 7? I don't know, but what I do know is that if the last Mandala node isn't shut down quickly, there aren't going to be any more Ecto vehicles. Now at the island's surface, the team will have to deal with a lot of enemies in their new Victorian steampunk surroundings before they can get to their goal. If you've ever played Resident Evil 4, this place will be right at home for you. Speaking of Resident Evil 4, this game's plot also features a woman you need to save from supernatural forces. You may have been wondering, why Alyssa? Why is she so important to the impending cataclysm? Well, look no further than this painting inside of Shandor Castle. Look familiar? Turns out Alyssa herself is a Shandor, which means that she accidentally triggered the mandala due to her bloodline while she was staying at room 1221 at the Sedgwick Hotel, causing this entire chain of events. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for Peck, though, who actually personally recommended her to be the guest curator of the Gozer exhibit at the museum. That guy's turning out to be a much bigger pain in the ass than originally anticipated. Now that you're getting a lot closer to uncovering the truth, Shandor has apparently decided that it's time to send in enemies that look like literal Grim Reapers. Scythes and all. Fortunately, they aren't actually Grim Reapers, and they just kinda implode after spraying them with slime. They are still ghosts though, and if they can't kill you outright, they'll resort to kidnapping, which is exactly what happened to Egon, Winston, and Peter after the recruit conveniently fell down a hole. Now, with Ray as the only person who could offer some verbal assistance, this level quickly swapped from infiltration to search and rescue. The actual work is still up to you though, since Ray is on the Ecto-8. My advice for this section? Haul ass and spray fast, because there's a lot of enemies that want you dead. And since you're alone, you have to be extra cautious, or else it's game over, man. Eventually, you'll find Winston, who's stuck in some sort of Iron Maiden. After getting him out, he references Ghostbusters 2 and notes that the mood slime from that movie must have come from this island. Next up, Egon, who's also stuck in an Iron Maiden and protected by a lot of enemies. Just need to find Peter now, and then we can get back to shutting down the node. Somehow, he managed to escape on his own, but at least that makes the job a bit easier now that the team's back to full strength. Well, minus Ray. But at least this node seems to be easier to shut down, since all that needs to be done is destroy a few parts on this giant orrery. Some extra slime tether shenanigans later, and the final node is destroyed. Well, okay, almost destroyed. The final node guardian is an imprisoned Slore, which, according to the in-game notes on it, is a literal demon from literal hell that Shandor and his cult somehow managed to capture and contain to act as the guardian of this node. Oh, by the way, this is only a juvenile. This isn't even full size, and it could easily wipe out a city. Much like the chairman, the Slore also has a comically large weak spot in the shape of an eye, so all you have to do is run around and bait it into slamming its head onto the arena, making it easy to blast its weak spot with slime. Upon successfully rage baiting and killing it, the final node is shut down, trapping all the ghosts in the mandala, stopping Shandor's takeover of the real world. Not if Peck has anything to say about it though, because while the team was away at Shandor Island, he showed up at the station and shut down the containment grid. Again. And now, he's doing something that's causing tremors at Central Park. Whatever it is, he has to be stopped. So, to round out the recruit's first week of being a Ghostbuster, it's time to prevent the apocalypse.
Any guesses on where we'll find Peck and Alyssa?
Who would have thought that Peck, of all people, would orchestrate something like this? Now that he's turned the entirety of Central Park into a cemetery, you'll have to traverse the most dangerous and chaotic level in the game to get to him. Due to how incredibly dangerous it is in Central Park right now, the team unanimously decides that they should probably bring the Super Slammer with them to use on any ghost they encounter. Since the gate inside is shut pretty tight, Peter gives the recruit a boost over the wall to get inside and open the gate for the rest of the Ghostbusters. While searching for a way to the gate, Egon and Ray give an explanation as to why all of this is happening. The mandala is shut down, so why is the world still on the brink of ending? Well, in the Gozerian Codex, it's written that both a blood sacrifice and a massive amount of spiritual energy are needed to create a destructor form, which is Shandor's ultimate goal. Since the mandala was shut down, the energy source was cut off, forcing Peck to find another source of energy big enough to power a destructor form. Unfortunately for everyone in New York City, we have been capturing and containing energy for a viable backup source this entire time. So, as of right now, the apocalypse is currently happening and the only people who can stop it are 5 nerds in jumpsuits. Talk about unlikely heroes. And now that one of those nerds has opened the gate to the cemetery, the rest of them can come in and help save the day. Ray decides to go with the recruit, since the place is obviously too dangerous to traverse alone. Speaking of danger, here comes the first horde of enemies in the level, and they only grow bigger from here both in terms of numbers and in actual size. To be honest, a vast majority of this level is just a near-endless onslaught of enemies. Personally, I kind of like it. It acts as a good way to test your skills as a Ghostbuster with all the weapons and knowledge you've gotten throughout the game, on top of staying thematically urgent. You know, since something with more destructive power than Stay Puft is about to be created. It does get pretty hard the longer the level goes on though, and you'll see what I mean in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, you and Ray head into some underground tunnels to try and find a way to reconvene with the rest of the team. Some enemies try to stop you, of course, but they're pretty easy to deal with. After making it back to the surface, the only thing that's standing in the way of using the Super Slammer is a gate reinforced with psychokinetic energy, rendering it virtually indestructible. The frame it's attached to, though, is damaged and much easier to break. Now, what's the best way to break it? Well, by flinging flying stone angels at it, of course. Now, I am going to pause here for a moment. You remember how I said earlier to avoid professional difficulty if you value your sanity? This section is why. The straight-up, perpendicular difficulty spike can easily be compared to doing the fishing minigame in Stardew Valley, followed by immediately fighting Ishin the Sword Saint in Sekiro with 3 potatoes and a banana peel. Is that an exaggeration? Sure, but it's verbatim what I wrote in my notes while I was playing through this game. These little assholes will fling themselves at you at 198 miles per hour, that part is not an exaggeration, and will have you on the ground begging for mercy in 2 to 3 hits. But that's 2 to 3 hits on experience difficulty. I'm assuming they down you in just 1 on professional. And what do the other 3 Ghostbusters on the other side of the gate do to help?
Don't talk about my mom!
Okay, section over. I'm good. Everything's good. Everything's chill. Just need to pull this gate open with the slime tether, and then we'll be at the site where all the spiritual energy is coming from. Where Peck is at. We haven't gotten the chance to use the Super Slammer, though.
At least the tether's held. My fault. Miscalculated.
And I guess we never will. While Winston was driving the Ecto 1, he thankfully managed to get out safely. The same can't be said about the car though, since he can't get it started, which also means no more Super Slammer. Terrible timing too, since this tightly packed area has every enemy you fought in the cemetery and then some. And by then some, I mean 2 stone giants that look like they should be fighting Kratos instead of you. Once everything is either captured, slimed, or blasted to smithereens, you can take the keys dropped by the giants and head inside the mausoleum.
Wait, it's Ilsa.
It's Peck.
Can we blast them? Just one's really hard. Nobody's gonna know.
Easy, Venkman. Everything points to Peck being a pawn.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
It's the mayor.
No, Ray, it's not. It's Evo Shandor.
Shandor possessed the mayor, turned Peck on us to slow us down, and when we shut down his mandala before he could get fully juiced, he hijacked our ghost out of the containment unit as an alternate energy source.
Very good. And they say you're the slow one.
Wait, what? Who says that?
Everybody. What's the girl have to do with it?
Taking her was necessary. To assume my own destructor form, I require blood. My blood.
What about Gozer? I thought you built this all for him.
I did, but he failed me. Twice! How he earned the title the Destroyer is beyond me. Anyway, I thought to myself, why worship a god when you can actually become one?
Slime him.
Okay, time to finally end this insanity once and for all. Ivo Shandor, being the mastermind behind everything that's happened so far, is naturally very powerful, being able to fight all 5 Ghostbusters at once. The trick with this fight is simply to survive Shandor's attacks until one of the pillars providing the energy for his shield opens up, exposing the fragile crystal inside. Once each pillar is down, all that's left to do is just send him back into Ghost World.
Now deactivate your pulse, and we'll cross the streams with the blast function.
I can't shut mine down, Ray.
Me too. Me neither. I mean,
Who decided to reinforce these shoulder straps?
hey, Shandor, where's your destructor form now? Leave it in your other suit?
And apparently, we're coming with. Now that we're all in Ghost World, he can freely assume his destructor form to, well, destroy us. Unfortunately, since he's actually pretty smart, he doesn't have a giant glowing eye to act as his weak spot. It's a good thing though that there's a reliable backup strategy: dodge and destroy. And you'll have to do quite a bit of destroying, since he'll occasionally summon 4 pillars that hit him with healing beams of light, so you'll have to break them quickly before he regenerates too much health. Rinse and repeat until...
gods for breakfast. I'm deactivating the cross-stream governor. I never thought I'd say this again. Cross the streams.
We eat gods for breakfast?
Too much, you think?
No, I liked it.
I've got you.
Get me down from here. Please,
New guy.
I'm begging you, let
Your
me
call.
down. Huh? This is not the last you will see of me.
The Ghostbusters! Hey, fellas! What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Where is here?
You were the victim of a trans-dimensional possession, Your Honor.
What's that mean?
An evil ghost was walking around in your body for a few months.
Whoa! Did anyone notice? Well, how's my approval rating?
Well, you got reelected.
By the way, you're a descendant of Shandor.
Yeah, I kinda got that. What? Venkman!
The end. That's the game, everyone, and it's one that holds a special place in my heart. Hopefully, maybe, now that you know the general story of the game, you know why I consider it to be the true successor to the original Ghostbusters movies. Now, I have nothing against Afterlife or Frozen Empire. Matter of fact, I actually really like those movies. But this game, it really feels like a true return to form after Ghostbusters 2. The characters act the same, the comedy is solid and true to the movies, the plot is engaging, but it doesn't take itself too seriously, and because of that, you may have noticed that I have yet to go in depth with either the plot or its characters. And to put it simply, there isn't really a reason to. Sure, it's in part because they're pre-established characters, but to be honest, both the plot and characters are really very simplistic. let's take the original team for example. Egon Spengler is a monotone genius who is obsessed with learning all there is to know about everything paranormal. Ray Stantz is just as obsessed with everything paranormal as Egon, and maybe just as smart, but his impulsive personality and aloof demeanor often land him in pretty tricky situations. Winston Zeddemore is probably the most realistic out of the crew, initially joining in the first movie because of a steady paycheck, but he loves his job and tackles the job's dangerous situations in a headstrong manner. Lastly, there's Peter Venkman, a rather arrogant man who can come off as a callous flirt, but will ultimately do the right thing. And really, that's it. None of the characters have any defining arcs or moments in the game, and they all act pretty much the same way you would expect them to. Frankly, to me, that's part of the beauty of this game. Its simplicity. Neither the plot nor the characters face moral dilemmas or exceedingly complex situations. There aren't many moments that will elicit a strong reaction out of you one way or another. Everything's very one note, sure, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. Even the gameplay is pretty simple in nature, but it's fun. And in a time where the landscape of the video game industry is bogged down by unfinished or horribly buggy games and ever-increasing prices caused by unchecked greed, it's refreshing to wind down and just bust some ghosts. Hello everybody, if you made it to the end of this video, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, or listening, I don't really care either way, as long as you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it and you would like to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. It would mean the world to me and it will help me make more videos like this. I know that the previous videos on my channel have been more video game funny moments type videos, but to be honest, that's not exactly the type of video I want to make anymore. I feel like I can be more consistent in terms of quality with this retrospective video essay kind of video. I mean, the first video I ever uploaded to this channel was a video essay over Fallen Aces, and I had a lot of fun with that. It got a really good reception. Thinking back on it, thinking back on the time that I spent making that video, it was a lot of fun, and I want to go back to that. So yeah, I think the new norm for this channel going forward will be the video essay retrospective style of content. I'm not really sure if I want to stick to one or the other. It could honestly be a mixture of both, but either way, it's going to be longer video essay type videos. I'd imagine every video going forward will be at least 30 minutes long, 30 to 60 minutes. It depends on the game, and it depends on how much I can find to talk about. And that's about it. I just wanted to make a little channel update at the end of this video, because I do really want to keep uploading videos to this channel. Admittedly, I don't really have a set schedule for when they will come out, especially since I'm working night shift at my current job. But, when I have time and whenever I make time, I will work on videos for this channel. Because, I mean, this is just really fun for me, honestly. And, what better job to have than one that you have fun with? Have a good day, everybody. I hope to see you for the next video.